Welcome to the second week of preseason. We're going to go give you a rundown of things that happened. By the way, if you don't remember, we are the Fantasy Forecasters. I'm Bryn, this is Danny, and that's Sean. We're just going to get right into the basics, like what happened this week, anything you need to know, or maybe just something maybe you should know. And I guess I'll start it?
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to start?
All right. I think it was a telling sign this week that the Redskins invited some running backs in after the injuries to P. Ryan and also just I'm still thinking or not sure Chris Thompson's going to be completely healthy for week one. So the Redskins invited in Jamal Charles, Arlene Darkwa, and Adrian Peterson. I probably just butchered the first name of Darkwa, but
no, you got it. You got it.
All right. So it's kind of telling to me because does that mean like the Redskins aren't trusting the backs that they have? I mean, I know they don't have many, but
I mean, they've had a lot of injuries. Samaje, obviously, it should be back before the season starts. Chris Thompson should be okay when the season starts. But I think this is more of a precautionary measure, as they did have 3 running backs injured this week, and then the big one last week. So I think this is more precautionary than anything. A lot of those guys are over the hill. Darkwall's not bad, so we'll see what happens.
Start with the Redskins running backs again.
I know, right? They're the biggest story. Every week we think we have it figured out, and then something else happens to change it. Right. And I'm going to jump into mine. And once again, there wasn't many big stories this week. There wasn't anything huge that happened, which is a good thing because that makes it better for when the season starts, that your favorite players aren't down. But one of the things that I liked and saw, and it was for the Jets, Teddy Bridgewater, for a second week in a row, has looked solid out there. Yes, he threw an interception, but he still was 10 for 15 for 125 yards and a touchdown. Second week in a row looking solid. He outplayed Darnold this week. Josh McCown again didn't play this week. I guess he's one of those starters set in there that they're just not using him at all. He's not injured or anything. But my question now coming out of that one is, are they going to trade Bridgewater? There's a lot of talk around the league. I've seen a couple teams that are supposedly interested, but those are just rumors out there. I think that he still has a chance to start for the Jets this year. I can't see him being traded at this point. I don't think Darnold's ready. And Josh McCown, as we all know, usually has one okay season with the team, and then where does he go? Except the Bucks, but then that doesn't happen good for anyone in the Bucks. So I personally think Bridgewater is going to end up starting pretty early in the season.
To be fair, McCown didn't really have a shot with Chicago. He got cut after his good year.
Yeah, okay, he didn't have the chance to have that bad year in Chicago. But I think that's the biggest thing. I think Teddy Bridgewater looks like the person who should be the starter in the New York Jets. Keep an eye on that one for fantasy drafts, but I think he should be it.
Right. Kind of sticking with the themes of quarterbacks here, you kind of have to feel bad for this guy, A.J. McCarron. Finally gets his break. He goes to a team where he has a chance to start. Now he's injured, probably going to miss the rest of preseason and beyond. The Bills quarterbacks, we kind of joked in the first video we made. They're actually not looking bad, but it is preseason. You can take it with a grain of salt. Like I said, A.J. McCarron is probably out for the remaining rest of preseason. Chances are by that time they're already going to announce the starter, whether it be Nathan Peterman or their rookie quarterback. So for me, it's kind of a disappointment for A.J. McCarron, who finally had his potential break.
Yeah, especially after that failed trade last year. He would have been starter last year if that hadn't happened. So poor guy.
Another thing that I actually noticed in the games was 2 quarterbacks who kind of stood out that aren't really getting talked about as much as someone like Darnold or sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Darnold,
we're just lost.
Mayfield. Davis Webb for the New York Giants actually had a pretty good game against the Detroit Lions. Manning did not play this week, so that's also another. Well, it's still. I mean, he didn't go up against top.
He would have started.
He started, but he didn't go up against them the whole time. But he went 14-20 for 140 yards and a touchdown. And another guy who this one was against backups, but it's still I'm pretty sure his second straight week that he actually looked pretty good. Chad Kelly of the Denver Broncos went 7-9 for 90 yards and a touchdown as well.
Future starter.
So there you go. I'm also talking about my Bears in a down manner 2 weeks in a row because I picked the team that played against them 2 straight weeks.
And
now, I do believe we also have an apology for this next lead-in.
Yes, thank you for the lead-in. And it's not necessarily an apology yet because we're still only 2 weeks in on preseason. But last week I tore into Chubb and Hyde. Mostly those two. I think I did the whole Browns running back team, but I specifically went at those two over Duke Johnson because I think Duke Johnson had like 1 carry last week or something. Was saying that you're both fighting for a starting job. You need to show that you want it. Well, this week they both kind of showed up, and I just want to point out to this week that they both showed that they could technically be starter. Now, I think Hyde did the best. I think Hyde started. He was against the better players, but he went 9 for 64 and a touchdown. Great game for Hyde. I think he probably is at least going to be starter early in the season. And if the Browns win a couple games early on, it's hard to say with a straight face, if the Browns win a couple games early on, Hyde probably can start most of the year. Chubb can sit for a year. But with that being said, Chubb had a pretty good game of 11 for 53, just under 5 yards a carry. So, once again, both of them look good. Both of them stepped it up this week. So, still, though, we don't necessarily know who's going to be starter in Cleveland, but they both put a show on this week to say, it should be me. I think Hyde's still in the lead, but not by that much.
Right. And kind of sticking with the theme of running backs, we're going to talk about Christian McCaffrey, who finally had a good running performance that we've been waiting for. He had 5 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown. Most of that came off of a 70-yard run. Yes, I'm fully aware. But the explosiveness is finally there. The offensive line has gotten better, even though they lost Andrew Norwell, one of their best offensive linemen, but they brought in a couple other pieces. Ron Rivera has said a lot of this offseason how they want to get him going. They want to give him the bulk of the carries. You do have C.J. Anderson there, so there's a little bit of concern that he may vulture some of like the goal line stuff. Yeah. But in a PPR league, I think that Christian McCaffrey is definitely someone to keep on your radar.
Yeah, and then I'll lead it into the next spot here then. So we're going to jump in with all of that being said. Our biggest, what do we want? Let's go with our biggest standout this week. Let's close with disappointment this time. Our biggest standout this week. So someone who maybe isn't getting as much talk about, maybe he's not going to be starter if the league begins, but at least they had a big week and they're showing that they're probably going to make the team. And mine is for the Oakland Raiders running back, and I'm not a fan of Marshawn Lynch anymore. I think he's over the hill. I don't think he can put up numbers anymore. But this young rookie,
he had a 60-yard touchdown run called back week 1.
Yeah, but it was called back, so it doesn't count.
But he still had it.
Yeah, but it doesn't count. So Chris Warren, the running back who's actually doing good there, he's a rookie this week. He for the last 2 weeks, he has 31 carries for 196 yards in 2 weeks. Does that mean he's going to be starter? No. He's probably not going to be right away, but I would put him as someone to keep an eye on as the season goes, maybe halfway through the season or something, when Marshawn Lynch gets injured or something like that, or if he's even benched, because like I said, I'm not huge on Marshawn Lynch.
You also have Jalen Richard,
Yeah.
and then they also have another running back. So he's like 4th on the
Well, the other one's Doug Martin, but Doug Martin hasn't played yet this preseason.
But there's also somebody else too, don't they?
No, it's just those guys right now. But Doug Martin hasn't played yet in the preseason. Is it because he's injured? I don't think he's injured. I haven't heard anything on that. So I'm not quite sure why Doug Martin's not getting carries early on this year. Maybe you could tell us in the comments if you know. But anyway, that's my person that stood out to me so far, especially this week.
I think the actual, I don't think Doug Martin's catching on too well with Gruden's offense.
Something
I think that's what I read before, that it's just Martin's just not getting it, and he just doesn't look like himself from Tampa.
And the injuries piled up on the guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting older, just not the same running back.
His legs got beat up.
The biggest thing for me is, I am all about Kelly, the Broncos quarterback. Listen, he has outplayed every quarterback they have. Paxton Lynch
too much.
is continuing to struggle. Obviously, he's now 3rd on the depth chart behind Kelly.
He's not even going to make the team.
Yeah, and I don't think he will. And then, they signed Case Keenum to that big deal to be the franchise guy. He has not looked great. He has been struggling. Now, granted, I will give him a little bit. He did play the Vikings defense week 1. That is a very strong pass defense. The second week, he also played another somewhat decent pass defense. But let's be honest. you pay someone that kind of money, you want consistency, and they're not getting it. I'm not saying Chad Kelly is the answer, but I'm saying why not at least give him an opportunity to perform with the number 1 team.
And coming from a Vikings fan, Case Keenum's probably not their future answer. I say probably they're going to
coming from a Bears fan, we don't got that great of a pass defense. Because week two was the Broncos against the Bears, and Keenum couldn't do anything against the Bears. Royce Freeman looked good, by the way. That was another. That's a.
Is that your?
No, I actually. It's not really a guy who's never going to be a starter there. I actually like Marquise Goodwin's stats this week. I know there was no touchdown in there, but he's kind of a guy that's just sitting at the bottom of the wide receiver pool, and everyone's kind of just like, well, I mean, they got Pierre Garçon, and I keep having all these names that I'm worried I'm going to butcher. and like,
this is the new part of the video, by the way. How many names can Bryn butcher?
How many subscribers will we lose?
But like, I mean, Goodwin had 3 catches for 61 on 3 targets. So like everything Garoppolo threw, well, actually, it was Garoppolo.
Garoppolo played, but he didn't look the greatest this week. It wasn't his week.
Yeah, I don't know that all those were.
I don't think Garoppolo really threw to him. I think it was the backup.
But even still, I mean, three catches, 61 yards is a positive thing for a guy who's looking like he will be the number 2 in San Francisco.
Right.
Fair enough.
Good. All right, my biggest disappointment this week, and we're just going to bring it right out in the open, is the Jaguars' offense. The Jacksonville Jaguars' offense looked terrible this week. Now, granted, Leonard Fournette did have a rushing touchdown on 4th and goal. Whatever. Bortles looked terrible. This is a guy we paid millions of dollars to be the franchise guy, to lead us to the Super Bowl. Granted, he looked great, and it's preseason. It is early, I understand. But the one interception he had was just an awful pass where he clearly didn't even see the guy, even though he was sitting right there in zone coverage.
Harrison Smith.
And the other one, he also had another play that should have been intercepted, but the Vikings apparently had butterfingers and they can't intercept the ball.
You injured that guy later in the game. That was Marquise Alexander.
Well, he deserved it. He can't catch a football. But anyway,
You're promoting violence.
The Jaguars' offense looked terrible. It's not going to be good enough come the regular season. They need to kick it into high gear. Hopefully, this was just a rough week. It was bad play, and then they'll right the ship next week. But we'll see.
And I'm just going to go right on the other side of that. The Vikings offense. And once again, for both of us, this could very well be that we were both against a good defense. Both our teams were against top 2 defenses from last year. But man, Vikings offensive numbers. Kirk Cousins was 3 for 8 passing. Trevor Siemian was 5 for 10. A total combined yardage of 58 passing yards between the both of them. Oh, it was awful. Latavius Murray, 6 rushes for 12 yards. Mind you, he's not our starter. Dalvin Cook didn't play. But man, and then you had 2 fumbles to that, one of them lost. Oh, it was ugly. Then what about our top 2 running backs, you ask? Well, Stephon Diggs, nothing. Adam Thielen, nothing.
Receiver.
Yeah.
You just butchered that.
Yeah.
You said running back.
Oh, sorry, wide receivers. Oh, that's okay. They understand. That's how angry I'm shaking angry. But no, I'm not angry. I'm not really angry. It's preseason. We looked good first week. Second week, we're against a good defense. It scares me a little bit saying that our division does have. Okay, no. The division doesn't have that good of defenses in there. But still, we're playing a couple great defenses. Yeah, I was going to say. So we're not against any great defense there, but if we make it like really far, or I'm saying like we, if the Vikings make it really far and they play someone like the Jaguars in the Super Bowl, if they play someone like the Eagles have a pretty good defense, again, getting shut out like that, it didn't look any different than Case Keenum's last year against the Eagles in that last game. So it's a concern. It's preseason, so it's 1 week. Let's see what happens next week. Let's see Dalvin Cook come back. But it was ugly. It was ugly. Hey, anything about the Jaguars-Vikings game?
Bears looked okay. My biggest disappointment is losing that one viewer.
What were you
I kept saying Samaj Perine, and it's not Samaj Perine. It's Samaj Perine.
You still got it wrong.
Did I still get it wrong?
It's Samaj Perine.
Samaj Perine.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. Come back, viewer. Okay, well, anyway, that's it.
That was the.
I'm still disappointed in myself.
That was the preseason week 2 recap. We will do a week 3 recap next week. Thank you guys. Be sure to like and subscribe our videos. We will be coming out with our running back fantasy preview coming soon, so be sure to check that out. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
And just remember, and subscribe. And just remember, we predict it as good as the weatherman.
That's right.